Greetings, film fans. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, my name is John Campion, the senior editor of AMC Movie News, here to get you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movies for this Wednesday, December the 5th, 2012. And we start with our news flash. Joss Whedon, who created shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Firefly, and directed the most successful film of the year, The Avengers, has reportedly just turned in his outline for Avengers 2 to Marvel Studios. Avengers 2 doesn't open in AMC theaters until May 1st, 2015, but considering how all the upcoming Marvel films are leading up to Avengers 2, it's important that Whedon get his drafts together quickly so the directors of all those other films have opportunities to build tie-ins into their movies as well. Entertainment site Deadline is reporting that actor Matt Damon is in talks to join the upcoming George Clooney-directed film The Monuments Men. The drama is said to take place during the final days of Nazi Germany as Adolf Hitler and the Nazis try to cover their tracks by destroying all the artwork they had stolen during their rise to power, as a group of art historians and museum curators try to rescue those works of art. Damon would be joining an all-star cast that includes Daniel Craig, Bill Murray, Cate Blanchett, Jean Dujardin, John Goodman, and George Clooney himself. This would be the 8th film Clooney and Damon worked together on in various capacities. Actress Anne Hathaway was recently being interviewed about her upcoming film Les Miserables, which also happens to be my second most anticipated film of the year, when a reporter from Access Hollywood asked her if she'd been interested or if she would be interested in playing Catwoman again in a potential spin-off film. She responded quite emotionally, saying, "No one's talked to me about it, but I would love it. It's so embarrassing. I was at a press Q&A thing the other night for a screening of The Dark Knight, and the moderator asked me, so what was it like to say goodbye to the character? And I burst into tears because I miss her. It just makes me cry. I miss her. I love Selena so much, and I love her presence in my life." And getting to, "I'm crying again," she added. So assuming there was enough Kleenex in the world, I would love to do a spin-off. Les Miserables opens in AMC theaters everywhere on Christmas Day. The new James Bond film Skyfall had already become the most successful Bond film of all time, and now it's set a new record, becoming the highest-grossing film in the UK of all time, having currently made £94,277,000, which roughly works out to be about 151 million US. The new amount beats the previous record formerly held by Avatar. Worldwide, Skyfall has already made $870 million and is still playing in AMC theaters everywhere. You can get your tickets now at amctheaters.com. A new photo from the upcoming adaptation Ender's Game was released this week by Entertainment Weekly, showing off Harrison Ford in his sci-fi military blues. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Ender's Game, the synopsis goes like this. In the near future, a hostile alien race called the Formics have attacked Earth. If not for the legendary heroics of International Fleet Commander Mazer Rackham, played by Ben Kingsley, all would have been lost. In preparation for the next attack, the highly esteemed Colonel Graff, played by Harrison Ford, and the international military are trailing only the best young children to find the future Mazer. Ender Wiggin, played by Asa Butterfield, a shy but strategically brilliant boy, is pulled out of his school to join the elite. Ender's Game is set to be in theaters November 1st, 2013. And that will do it for your news flash. Hey folks, before we go any further and get into some of these stories, I want to remind you to take a moment and click on the subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our AMC Theaters YouTube channel. Once you subscribe, it's totally free. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, our editorials, trailers, our trailer reviews, and of course, AMC Movie Talk. So go ahead, take a moment, and click subscribe, and we thank you for your support. Hey, one other thing I want to remind you of, I mentioned this yesterday, The Hobbit opens next week. It is my number one most anticipated film of the year. And what we're doing at AMC Theaters is pretty cool. This Saturday, December the 8th, at a participating AMC theater near you, you can go and watch the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, the director's cuts, for one price. That's right, for $25. You get all 3 director's cut films, a $5 bonus bucks if you're an AMC Stubs card member, a commemorative lanyard, and a special commemorative gift. All 3 movies, all that stuff for one $25 ticket. It starts at 10 a.m. at an AMC theater near you. Hop on over to amctheaters.com and get all the information and find a participating theater and get caught up in all the Lord of the Rings films before The Hobbit opens next week. All right, let's go into a couple things here. The first story that really jumps out to me for a couple of reasons. for a good reason and for a bad reason, unfortunately. Anne Hathaway comes out, and I gotta say, it was a pretty emotional kind of speech, saying she's crying when she thinks about Selena, that she loves that character so much, she would love to do it, and she gets so emotional. I mean, actually, that's pretty cool to see in a world where actors seem like they don't give a crap, and they just see it as a job and a paycheck, and they move on to different things. It's kind of nice to see an actor get really so attached to a character. I mean, if she's being honest about it. But this brings up two things. Number one, she makes these comments, and I start reading online about people everywhere saying it's been confirmed that they're going to do a Catwoman spin-off movie. And people saying, and then I'm reading some debates online saying, no, it's not. I say, yes, Anne Hathaway has said she'll do another Catwoman movie. That means they're doing another Catwoman movie. And Dennis, you and I have seen people do this all the time. Let's get something straight here. This happens all the time. So sit down, listen. Uncle John's going to impart some knowledge onto you. Of course, actors say they want to do a role. Of course, actors say, I would love to do this job that will pay me $10 million for 3 months' work. I would love it. Of course they would. But just because an actor says they would like to do something, that means nothing. It means less than nothing. Just because Anne Hathaway says she would love to play Catwoman does not mean a studio is now going to go out and spend $175 million to go and make a Catwoman movie. That means squat. So if you're reading anywhere online that Anne Hathaway says there's going to be a Catwoman spin-off movie, or that it's been confirmed that there's going to be a Catwoman movie, ignore it. It's completely not true. Dennis and I see this all the time. With an actor says something, and that's great. Then an actor says they'd like to do it. That's wonderful. But that doesn't mean anything. Now, with that out of the way, Dennis, I think you and I talked about this before, and I think we were in agreement. I think going into The Dark Knight Rises, I think a lot of people, including myself, were kind of afraid, hey, as much as I'm a big fan of Anne Hathaway, I kind of feared a little bit she would kind of ruin the movie. I thought, really? Do you have to have Catwoman? And even though I thought the suit looked kind of cool, I thought there's a bit of potential for cheesiness there. And I was really worried. I know a lot of people worried that Anne Hathaway and Catwoman would not fit into the Christopher Nolan universe that he created for Batman and all this kind of stuff. But she was the best part of that movie. To me, Anne Hathaway as Catwoman was the most refreshing, new, completely fit in with the genre. To me, she was my favorite part of the movie. Like, how did you feel about Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah, she was one of my favorite parts in the movie, and the movie definitely has a lot of flaws in it.
Yeah.
And that was not one of them. I don't know if I ever thought she was going to ruin the movie. I just was kind of worried that, one, Anne Hathaway, I love her as well. I have a huge crush on her. But she... I
like to refer to Anne Hathaway as the future ex-Mrs. Campia. But anyway, go ahead.
But I was worried that she didn't fit that role.
Right.
But obviously her acting talents proved me wrong. And she was one of the best parts. So, and to your point about her wanting to do it, I think it's great as well. I think a lot of people don't realize actors and even producers and directors, like even the big ones, they don't have the power to just greenlight a movie.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder process. Even the top directors, top actors, top producers, they have not trouble, but they've got to put something together in order to get a studio to greenlight their movie.
Yeah, I think that is a common misconception by a lot of film fans that, well, Anne Hathaway's a very powerful person in Hollywood. She's a big famous actress. If she says they should do a movie, there are going to be people jumping to do the movie, and that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. That's a misnomer. There are people far more powerful than Anne Hathaway or George Clooney or anybody else that we can mention whose names you have never heard of that are actually the most powerful people in Hollywood that make these things happen, and they're not. But I got to tell you, I mean, look, Christopher Nolan said his Batman universe was done, but Christopher Nolan does not own Batman. Warner Brothers owns Batman. And they own everything that Christopher Nolan did with Batman. There's another misconception. People think, I've been having debates with people recently about this, that say, this can't happen because Christopher Nolan owns Batman. No, he doesn't. Warner Brothers owns everything that Christopher Nolan ever wrote regarding Batman. And if Warner Brothers decides erroneously that they want to go ahead and continue this universe that Nolan created, it's within their rights to do it. But I don't think they will. And in as much as I would like to see Anne Hathaway play this character again, I just think it's a bad idea to continue on this Christopher Nolan universe. I think let it go. It was brilliant. It was great. I had my problems with The Dark Knight Rises, yes. But overall, as a trilogy, it's brilliant. Let it go. Let it be. That's kind of my theory. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing here. Avengers 2 may not come out for another 2.5 years, but it's been reported now that Joss Whedon has turned in his first outline for Avengers 2, of course, coming out, I believe, May 1st, 2015. Now, some people I've been talking to last night and today saying, like, well, why is it, what's the rush? Well, you got to understand, another misconception about things here is that people can just jump up, make a movie, and put it in theaters in 4 months. It doesn't work that way. There's a huge, long process, especially for a film that, let's admit it, Avengers 2 is going to cost north of 230 million production, probably, maybe even more, because they know it's going to make it back. Yeah. You get a production that's that big, that requires so much production, so much visual effects, coordinating so many schedules of so many stars, doing all you got to start work on it really, really early. But as I mentioned in the newsflash, the other thing we got to keep in mind here too is that Joss Whedon is kind of shepherding all the Marvel films right now. And so all these other films, and Thor's already in production, Captain America is getting ready to go into production, Captain America 2, Winter Soldier. They're going to be starting pre-production fairly soon, if they haven't already, on Guardians of the Galaxy. And of course, Ant-Man, they're going to be... So all these people are actually kind of relying, the hub of the entire Marvel universe is the Avengers. That's the hub. Everything in all the Marvel films built up to the first Avengers, everything for all these other Marvel films, while they're going to be their own self-contained stories, are also in a way going to be leading up to the next Avengers. So these other directors need to have an idea about where Avengers is going to be, what they need to put in their films to go to the Avengers, and give them the option to put other optional tie-ins into the Avengers. This kind of stuff needs to happen at this point. So I'm excited that he's got the outline in, but I'm not surprised that it's this early because they need to. And I wouldn't be surprised if the first draft of the script is probably done in the next couple of months. I mean, so Avengers 2, well underway. And let me move on to my third thing that I want to talk about here before we sign off. And this has nothing to do with any of the news flash items. And it's something I've kind of touched on before, but Dennis and I keep having to have this conversation in here, so I wanted to bring it up today. You know, it was announced the last couple of days in a row, Dane DeHaan is going to be the new Harry Osborn in Spider-Man. Then it became announced that Jamie Foxx has been confirmed as Electro in Spider-Man. We talked about that yesterday. But it continues to stun me. Absolutely stun me when any of these announcements are made, looking at some of the reader comments, whether it's on our AMC Theaters Facebook page, which, by the way, you should follow us at amctheaters or at facebook.com/amctheaters, or on our videos or wherever, just reading the comments, so many people expressing dislike for this new Spider-Man movie that we just had. Now, look, let me preface what I'm about to say with this. All film, this is the holy rule of movies, all film is subjective. There's no objective measurement that you can measure a quality of a film. All film is art, and art is subjective. You can hang a piece of art on the wall, have 10 people stand around it, and each of them could see something different. Art is something we engage with, and it creates a unique experience in all of us. And so you got to understand that. There's no such thing as an objectively measurable good movie. It's all subjective. So when I get into arguments and debates with people and say, you're crazy for liking that, or you're nuts for not liking that, I'm being a bit facetious because all art is subjective. You have a unique experience with the movie, and I have a unique experience with the movie. But it's still fun to engage and debate and argue. That's one of the most fun things about being a film fan. So to all those people who talk crap about The Amazing Spider-Man, you're nuts. You are out of your minds. You don't know what you're talking about. The Amazing Spider-Man, this new one just put out by director Mark Webb, is in every way, I've said this before, I'll say it again, other than the musical score, in every single way, shape, and form is superior to the first Spider-Man movie that Sam Raimi did. I may not say it's quite as good as Spider-Man 2 was. I love Spider-Man 2, like, passionately. But as far as the first film in the franchise goes, The Amazing Spider-Man, this one is better in every single way. It is a better Peter Parker, a more contemporary one. It is a better love interest. It was a better villain. Obviously, better special effects, better pace to the story. And look, I like the first Spider-Man film. I do. I like it very much. But The Amazing Spider-Man was superior in every single way. And I've had these debates with people, and I tell them, say, look, you're just saying that because it's change, because it's different. You didn't want them to change and get a new Spider-Man and reboot the franchise. And therefore, you're just holding on to sour grapes and rotten eggs, and you're letting it infest your poisoned dark soul. So I just think, Dennis, kick in here. Like, you and I read this stuff all the time. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the hate that this Amazing Spider-Man reboot has gotten. I mean, I really am surprised because other than that crane sequence, which I found kind of hilarious.
And let's call spade a spade here. That crane sequence where all the construction workers unite to help Spider-Man because somehow they magically knew what he was trying to do and set up the cranes across the city, because that was awful. That was awful.
Yes.
I agree. But it's the only awful thing about it. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah. So other than that, I just don't find anything in that movie to be so offensive. I could see if people didn't like it in the way that maybe they just didn't want to re-see the origin, rewatch the origin again.
Yep.
Maybe they're just bored with it. Okay.
And you and I were concerned about that with the trailers before we saw the film. We were concerned. It's like, hey, do we really want to see the origin story? I can understand that. Yeah.
But for me, it's like the casting is better. The love interest is better.
So much better.
Uncle Ben and Aunt May are so much better. Yep. I don't see where people are coming from where they hate it so much. And I've gotten that on my Twitter account and Facebook and all that stuff about how much people hated the reboot.
I know, and it's surprising to me when I read this visceral hate, because the fan rating right now, as I look on Rotten Tomatoes, critic rating 73%. It's certified fresh. But the fan rating is 81%. It's even higher. So, I mean, fans in general seem to really like the film. Critics in general seem to really like the film. But when you look on the chat boards, there are people who just hate it, and I just can't help but feel that's just because it's different. It's changed. But like I said, all film is subjective. Your opinion, if you hated Spider-Man while you were insane, is every bit as valid as mine. So we just want to get that out of the way. Hey, listen, that'll do it for us on this episode of AMC Movie Talk Daily. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, click that subscribe to YouTube button. Follow us on YouTube. Keep up to date on all the movie news, editorials, and, of course, AMC Movie Talk. Follow us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/AMC Theaters. Hey, almost 4 million people follow us there. You should, too. While you're at it, kick on over and join us on Twitter, twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Don't forget to get out and buy your tickets right now for the Lord of the Rings marathon at an AMC Theaters near you this Saturday starting at 10 a.m. All 3 films, all the special little gifts for $25 a ticket. That is a great deal. Make sure you go and do that. I want to thank Dennis Zen, and I want to thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News. Bye-bye.